The sun rose over the red plains of Outpost 12K. Wheat stalks swayed in the dry wind. Machines hummed quietly. And Eli Granger, an old man in dusty clothes, sipped his black coffee. His dog, a rusted old McCown named Rusty, lay beside him. It looked like a peaceful morning, but today would be different. Eli heard it first, a low rumble, deep in the ground, not thunder, not tractors. Something worse. He stood up, squinting at the sky. Dust clouds spun far off on the horizon. Then he saw them, dark shapes falling from the sky, like steel vultures. Traps alien, and heading straight for his land, inside the lead alien ship. Commander Vrol of the Varnak Raiders grinned. "This one's just a farming colony," he said. "No defense, no fleet, easy harvest." Second in Coman laughed. "Leave some livestock alive. I like their taste." They didn't even bother raising shields. On the ground, people panicked. Farmers screamed into cums. Children ran to bunkers, but no one gave orders. No one knew what to do, except Eli Granger. He didn't scream. He didn't run. He just turned to Rusty and said, "Time to wake up the old girl." Behind his barn was a silo, but it wasn't filled with grain anymore. Inside was a gravity pulse cannon half-built, half-scrap, and all illegal. Eli had put it together over 20 years, quietly, secretly. He never told anyone because he knew. Someday, someone would come back for him. And today, they did. The alien dropship came in low. Engines roaring, it lined up to land right in Eli's field. Its doors opened. Early soldiers laughing as they powered up their plasma rifles. Eli waited until the ship crossed the line he marked in dirt. Years ago, then he flipped the switch. The silo cracked open. The cannon spun once and fired. A deep, invisible pulse shot out. It didn't explode. It ripped gravity sideways. The dropship twisted in the engines failing. Hull bending like rubber. 1 second it was flying. The next, it was a smoking heap of fire and shrieking metal. Crashing. Into Eli's irrigation ditch? Rusty barked. Eli nodded. One down. The colony's cums lit up. Did someone just shoot down a Varnak dropship? Who the hell did that? Was that a silo cannon? No one knew what was happening. But one thing was clear. The invaders weren't untouchable anymore. Inside the wreck, the Varnak survivors crawled out. Some limped. Some screamed. Commander Vrol, burned and furious, looked around in disbelief. A human did this. He pointed toward the farmhouse. That one, burn it. Kill the farmer. Eli watched them coming. 12 Varnak, armored and armed. He didn't run. He reached under the porch and pulled out an old pulse rifle scratched. Humming and marked with the symbol of the Terran Black Guard, he whispered, "Let's dance." The Varnak spread out. They moved like hunters. But Eli knew this land. He had lived on it for 30 years. Every rock, every dip. Every blind spot. He led the first two into a trench disguised as a collapsed fence. He pulled the TRIPWIRE. Boom. The trench lit up in a blue flame. 2 screams. Then silence. The others panicked, fired wildly. Rusty burst from the barn, metal jaws open. One alien fired at the dog. Missed. Rusty did. 2 crunch. The alien dropped. Eli shot from cover. 3 clean shots, 3 kills. The rest tried to retreat to their ship, but there was no ship left. Only fire. Only Eli. Minutes later, it was over. All 12 Varnak were dead, and the dropship smoked in the field like a dead beast. Eli walked among the wreck, checking for survivors. There was one commander, VROL, half-dash, crushed under a beam. Still breathing barely. He coughed blood, hissed in rage. "You are just a farmer." Eli leaned down, his face cold, his eyes full of something ancient. "I was a farmer," he said. Then he lifted a heavy boot and finished it. That night, the colony was silent. People gathered. At Eli's front gate, no one spoke at first. Then a boy said, "You shot down a ship." Eli shrugged. "Wasn't the first one I've seen fall?" Someone whispered, Who are you? Eli looked up at the stars. Dark, quiet stars. I'm just a man who didn't want to fight anymore. Turn back to the group. But I will, if I have to. Above the planet, in orbit. More Varnock ships. Watch the signal feed from the destroyed. Dropsa. Watch the farmer on screen. He zoomed in on the man's face. Get me everything on him now. What's his name? Scout replied, Eli Granger. Registered as a farmer, no military record. ... The commander raised an eyebrow. But what? There's a mark on his file. One word flagged in red from the old Earth War servers. What word? Classified. What word? Hellfront. Final scene. Eli stands. Alone in the field, he lights a smoke. Behind him, Rusty stands guard. Above, the stars burn. He whispers to himself. They picked the wrong patch of dirt. And somewhere, the galaxy just got a new problem. The wreckage still smoked in Eli Granger's field. Dead. Varnock soldiers lay twisted and burned in the dirt above. The local news drones buzzed, scanning every angle of the destroyed drop, and all across the colony whispers grew louder. He shot down a ship with a farm silo. He used war tactics, not farmer instinct. Who is he really? No one had answers except one boy. His name was Kellen, 12 years old. Orphaned last year when pirates raided the southern ridge, Eli had taken him in, fed him, given him chores. But Kellen had seen something strange last night. Door behind the barn opened for the first time. He waited until Eli rode off toward the township. Then, with shaking hands, he slipped inside the hidden bunker. It was cold, dark, silent. Then the lights flicked on. Automatically, what he saw made his knees buckle. Not farming gear, not tools, weapons, dozens, old, illegal, modified. There were racks of rifles marked Terran, Black Guard, Obsidian class. One full suit of powered combat armor, its shoulder plate scorched, with a faded insignia burned into it, a skull. Wrapped in fire, above two crossed blades, and in the center of the room, inside a sealed glass case, a single dog tag. Kellen wiped the glass and read the inscription. SGT. Elias Granger, Terran Blackguard, Hellfront veteran declared. MIA, 12 years, AGO 12 years. That was the time when the Hellfront offensive happened. Kellen had read about it in old colony files. It was the battle Earth lost. The one so brutal that every surviving soldier was buried under government silence. Only 5 soldiers ever made it out alive. All disappeared until now. Footsteps echoed behind Kellen. He turned. Eli stood in the doorway. No smile, no rage, just a quiet look. You weren't supposed to see this, he said. Kellen stepped back. You were in the Hellfront. Eli walked past him, brushing dust off the dog tag. I didn't want to be remembered for that. Kellen swallowed hard. They said no one survived. Eli gave a dry chuckle. Yeah, that's what they wanted. Flashback 12 years ago. The Hellfront was a Dead Moon-Harness-7. The ground was made of broken glass and ash. Eli Granger and his unit had been sent in to hold the line against a joint alien force for races working together. They were told reinforcements were coming. They never did. 30,000 humans landed. Only 5 walked off. Eli had been the last. His entire squad dead. His body cracked by radiation. His mind never the same. Back in the bunker, Eli sat on an old crate. After Hellfront, I disappeared. They said I was dead. That was fine by me. Kellen frowned. Why? Eli looked at him. For 12 years, I dug holes and planted food. Boy, that's peace. But when they came back for us, I remembered what I used to be. Meanwhile, in orbit, the Varnock flagship floated silent. The High Commander stared at the report in his clawed hand. Subject Elias Granger. Status presumed deceased. Art. Blackguard Special Division. Omega clearance. Yes, he growled. This was supposed to be a farm. Second officer replied. He's not just a farmer, sir. The commander's eyes narrowed. He's a war relic. and we'll treat him like one. On Outpost 12K, more colonists arrived at Eli's gate. They weren't there for revenge. They were there with questions and gratitude. "You protected us," one man said. Another asked, "Will you lead us?" Eli paused and shook his head. "I'm not a leader. I just defend my soil." But the truth was spreading, and the Varnock were regrouping, and something deep in Eli's blood, the old war instinct, was coming back to life. He looked out across the horizon. The sky was too quiet. He knew they would return, and this time, it wouldn't be a dropship. Pulling the power armor out of storage, it hissed as it powered up. The lights on the helmet glowed red. Rusty sat beside him, tail wagging. Eli whispered more to himself than anyone. They wanted a farmer. Now they'll get a soldier. And when that next fleet came, he'd be ready. The Varnock didn't wait long. They wanted revenge. The defeat of one dropship, a shame, the death of a dozen soldiers, bruise, but being humiliated by a farmer could not be forgiven. So they came back hard. The sky above Outpost 12K darkened not from clouds but from ships. 3 assault carriers, over 20 support craft, hundreds of soldiers. The colony's warning systems screamed. Civilians ran. Lights flashed. The Cums went wild. They're back. Everyone to the shelters. Where's Eli? Eli was already moving, armor on, rifle charged. Rusty beside him, tail spinning like a rotor blade. His voice crackled. Across the colony-wide channel, no one engages. Stay down. Stay hidden. They want blood. Let's give them mud. The Varnock strike team landed hard. Their leader, Captain Tralvex, slammed down his visor. Scanned the area. I want the human alive. Kill everyone else. Troops spread out. They had thermal scans, drones, hover tanks. They were trained for war. But they weren't trained for Granger's Land. The first squad walked into the cornfields. Their boots snapped. Stalks, their scanners blinked. One soldier leaned down to inspect a pile of fertilizer. Click, boom. The whole field exploded upward, launching shards of carbon-tipped irrigation pipes into the air like spears. For Varnock dropped instantly another. Squad moved through the old well station. They found what looked like motion sensors. Easy, obvious, stupid. They laughed. Then the roof caved in. Not naturally remotely triggered. The Varnock were buried under 4 tons of reinforced. Ferrocrete. Eli moved like a ghost between buildings. His armor was patched, dented, humming with custom upgrades. He didn't need stealth. He had home field advantage. He watched the enemy split up exactly what he wanted. One by one, they disappeared into his traps. By hour 2 of the raid, 36 enemy. Troops were KIA. 2 hover tanks had been hijacked and crashed into each other. One Varnacum officer had gone mad, screaming that the fields were alive, and Eli hadn't fired a single shot yet. In a clearing behind the barn, 5 Varnock soldiers regrouped. Their Cums were down. Their commander wasn't responding. Then they saw something. A figure, walking calmly toward them. Old armor. Red visor, Eli Granger. He didn't run. He didn't shout. He just aimed, and the field lit up. Plasma slugs tore through the air. Eli ducked, rolled, fired. 1-shot headshot. Another leg. A third took down the last 2 with a burst grenade. He moved like he'd never left the battlefield, because, in his mind, he never had. Up in orbit, Captain Trelvix watched the body count rise. What is happening down there? One of his lieutenants gasped. Sir, we're losing 2. 1 man. Tralvex's hand trembled. No, not a man. Ghost. The last assault team regrouped near the Cums Tower. They planted charges, ready to wipe the colony's link to the outside galaxy. But before they could activate the detonator, a sound echoed behind them. Metal feet. Slow, heavy, steady, rusty. The mech dog growled once, and then its back unfolded into a miniature. Rawl. Final blast. A blue beam fired. The tower stayed standing. The Varnak DN single quotes. By nightfall, the entire Varnak raiding party had been eliminated. Every dropship burned in the dirt. Every hover tank was scrap. Not one attacker made it off planet. Back in town, Bull stood in silence as Eli returned. His armor smoked, his helmet dented. His dog sat loyally by his side. Someone stepped forward. You. What? Stopped all of them. Eli shook his head. They stopped. Themselves. He looked up at the stars. By thinking I was just a farmer. In the Varnak command sector, emergency alerts flashed. The outpost was marked as unassailable Black Zone Granger CIOMAND, and next to it, a single quote pulled from a captured cum drone. The man doesn't fight with weapons. He fights with land, memory, and fury. Final scene. Eli walks into his barn, takes off the armor, sits down on an old stool, pets Rusty, and whispers, "They'll come again, but this time, I'll be ready." In deep underground blueprints for something much, much bigger began to load on his workbench screen. The Varnak Empire was humiliated. 3 raids, 3 defeats, by one man, not a general, not a warlord, a farmer. So they stopped thinking like an army and started thinking like criminals. In the underworld of the galaxy, the message spread fast. Open bounty on Elias Granger. No limits. Bring him in alive, or what's left of him. Blacksite channels buzzed. Hitmen sharpened blades. Mercenaries checked their armor, and one team answered first, the Obsidian Pack. 5 species. 5 killers. Ex-military. Exiled. Elite. No emotions. No mistakes. Their leader? A woman with half a face curled a scar. She had taken down warlords. She had hunted cyber beasts in neutron storms. She smiled when she saw the target. A farmer? This'll be fun. Back on Outpost 12K. Eli Granger felt it before the message even arrived. The air changed. The wind stilled. Even. Rusty, his mech dog, growled low and didn't move. Eli sat on his porch sipping coffee. Then he looked up at the sky. "They're not soldiers this time," he muttered. "They're professionals. The Obsidian Pack didn't come in dropships. They came in stealth pods, silent, black, small. They landed outside the colony, unnoticed. No noise. No warning. They split up." KYRL smiled. "Let's gut the legend." One moved through the hydrofields, cloaked, invisible. But Eli had prepared. He'd turned his crops into motion sensors. The second the assassin stepped on the soil, the stalks changed color. Rusty pounced. The merc screamed once, then silence. The second tried to enter through the water tunnels. He never noticed the pressure valve was reversed. When he crawled into the pipe, Eli triggered the burst. 60 gallons of boiling vaporized plasma flooded the tunnel. KYRL and the last 2 hunters reached the barn. They scanned. Nothing moved. KYRL whispered, "We go silent from here." One of her men stepped inside. The floor vanished. He fell 20 feet into a shock pit. The other raised his rifle too late. A bullet hit him straight through the visor. Only Kyrell remained. She walked into the barn. Slowly, carefully, every step measured, then dash, click. She looked down. Nothing, but a voice echoed above her. "You missed it." Eli stood in the rafters. Gun ready. KYRL raised her hands. "You're good. You're better," Eli replied. "You made one mistake. What's that? You thought this was a farm? It's a battlefield with crops." He pulled the trigger. An EMP bolt struck her directly. Her implants shorted. Her limbs spasmed. She dropped to the floor, twitching. When she awoke, she was tied to a chair in Eli's bunker. Rusty stood by the door. Eli leaned on the wall. "It sent you?" She grinned, blood in her teeth. "Everyone. You failed. Doesn't matter. The bounty's public now. More will come." Eli nodded slowly. "Then I'll stop waiting." The next day, Kyrell was dropped at the nearest Varnak station. Unharmed, unarmed, with a note burned into her chest plate. Tell them I'm coming next. Granger crossed the galaxy. Bounty boards changed. Eli's name was removed. Quietly, no. Price, no challenge. Just one warning. Do not pursue. Final scene, Eli sat at his table. Laid out before him were old star maps, marked with red circles, Varnak outposts, supply lines. Fuel points, he circled each one. You wanted a war, he said. You're about to get one. And outside, his farm hummed. But beneath it, the war machine began to wake up. The Varnak Empire was done playing games. No more raiding parties. No more bounty hunters. This time, the order came from the top. Send the fleet. Governor Helsrick, Supreme Warlord of Crescio, Sector Outpost 12K, was silent that morning. No alarms, no scouts. But Eli Granger already knew. He stood at the edge of his field, watching the clouds. Rusty, his mech hound, growled low above. The sky shimmered and split. 8 Varnak warships dropped out of FTL. People screamed. The colony went into lockdown. Even the Earth outposts refused to answer comms. No one wanted to be connected to a dead man. Eli's voice came across the comms, calm as ever. Stay inside. Get underground. Don't pray. Don't panic. Just trust the land. The Varnak commander, Admiral Jarsik, opened wideband comms. Elias Granger. You are charged with war crimes against a galactic power. Surrender now, and your colony will be spared. Eli clicked his mic. No. The Admiral blinked. Excuse me? You're standing in my dirt, Jarsik. You walk in here wearing pride and steel. You'll leave carrying ash and regret. Then Eli cut the channel and flipped a single red switch in his bunker. Across the planet, the surface changed. What looked like farmland, wasn't. Irrigation rigs snapped open into long barrel. Rail cannons. Plow drones became AA turrets. Grain towers unfolded into pulse artillery platforms. The colony was no longer a farm. It was a planetary kill box. The Varnak fleet opened fire. But their shots hit nothing. Eli had predicted the orbital vectors. His satellites reflected signals. His terrain mapping scrambled their sensors. And then he fired back. The first Varnak destroyer didn't explode. It folded, its metal twisting like wet cloth from a ground-based kinetic beam. The second tried to evade and flew into a gravity well trap. Collapsing under its own weight, the third deployed drop-dash pods. Big mistake. The pods were intercepted mid-air by drone interceptors, scrap-built fighters that looked like junk, until they shredded steel like paper. Within minutes, 3 ships gone. By the end of our 1-6 were crippled. Only one remained. That last ship tried to retreat. Its captain cried into the comms. He's not a man. He's a system. He's the damn planet. The Varnak fleet jumped to FTL. Only one made it. Its hull was scorched, its engines fried, and burned into the side of the ship. In plasma scorch marks was one message. Terran zone, do not enter. Back. On the surface, Eli walked through his fields. Smoke rose behind him. Drones hovered overhead, scanning for survivors. Rusty limped, armor cracked, tail sparking. Eli knelt, fixing a wire on the dog's back. You did good, old boy. He stood and looked up at the sky. The colony gathered behind him. Someone whispered, You destroyed a fleet. Another, You just won a war. Eli said nothing, just stared into space and muttered, I told them this was my land. Galactic. News feeds exploded. Farmer destroys fleet. Outpost 12K now a fortress world. Who is Elias Granger? Earth officials refused to comment. The Varnak Empire went silent, but underground channels told the truth. He's not a soldier. He's the beginning of something bigger. Final scene, Eli sits in his barn, sharpening tools, not weapons. Just tools. He sends one short message to Earth HQ. The line holds. Sector's mine now. The message is tagged. Granger. Post 12. K. Provisional Sovereign. And for the first time, Earth doesn't delete the message. They forward it to Galactic Command. The galaxy couldn't ignore it anymore. One man, once a farmer, had destroyed warbands, bounty hunters, and a Varnock fleet. Worse, he hadn't just survived. He'd taken control of the sector, trade routes, mining lanes. Corridors. Outpost 1, 2K, a forgotten dust ball, was now being called something new. Granger's Line. The Galactic Council met in private. Representatives of 7 species argued in whispers. He must be reasoned with. He's unstable, dangerous. Offer him neutrality. By time. They agreed on a plan. Give the farmer a deal. A diplomatic cruiser arrived in orbit 2 weeks later, Whitehall. No weapons. All flags visible. Eli watched it from his porch. Coffee in hand, armor off. Hat tilted. Rusty sat beside him, tail twitching. Here we go, he said. 3 envoys landed. 1 human, 1 Varnock, 1 Krith, diplomat with 6 golden eyes. They walked into the main square, cameras rolling. People stepped back. Some armed, some curious. Eli didn't move. He let them come to him. Eli's Granger, the Krith began, voice silky and calm. The council recognizes your ... accomplishments. Eli raised an eyebrow. That a compliment? A human diplomat? Smiled awkwardly. We're offering full sovereignty of Outpost 1 2K in exchange for... You disarm? Dismantle your weapons. Open your skies and stop expanding. Eli said nothing for a long moment. Then he stood up, walked toward the edge of the porch, and pointed toward the distant hills. See that ridge? The envoys turned. Under that ridge are 12 anti-orbital cannons. Not automated, not smart, just mean. He pointed to the fields. Every acre here is rigged to push back a fleet. We've got drones buried under crops. And satellites that can fake a planetary mass shift. He turned, eyes cold. And you want me to take it all apart? Because it makes you uncomfortable? The Varnock envoy stepped forward, frustrated. You've created a military zone and a trade sector. You're threatening peace. Eli's voice turned sharp. You brought war to my home. You threaten my people. You want to rewrite the rules because I didn't die like I was supposed to. The Krith tried again. This is a fair agreement. The galaxy will back off if Eli cut him off. You don't get it. I'm not asking for your peace. I'm building one that works. He stepped closer. You want peace? And leave me alone. Stay out of Granger's Line, or next time I won't be on defense. The envoys left in silence. They had no treaty. No handshakes. It's only fear. That night, Eli made a broadcast. Not through governments, not through diplomacy. He used open channels, pirate signals, and old Earth tech to broadcast across 4 sectors. The message was short. I didn't ask for war, but I won't be conquered. This sector is free. Any ship entering without permission will be treated as hostile. Let this be the last warning. Eli Granger and the galaxy listened. Merchants changed routes. Cartels moved away. Even warlords redrew their maps. Granger's Line became a no-fly zone, not by force, by reputation. In hidden corners of the galaxy, whispers began. He's building something. He's gathering systems. He's not just defending anymore. Quietly, in old Terran channels, veterans began reactivating comms. Some spoke 2 words. Granger's awake. Final scene. Eli walks the field at dawn. Rusty follows, sniffing the wind. A single flower grows where a Varnock pod once crashed. Eli kneels beside it, touches the soil. All I wanted was peace. He stands and looks out across the sector. His voice is quiet, but full of fire. So now, I'll build it my way. It started as a rumor that a farmer had turned a quiet colony into a fortress, that a man with old war scars now ruled the skies around Outpost 1 2K, but rumors die easy, so Eli made them true. He never announced it. He didn't need to. Construction began before sunrise. Orbital shields spun up. Drones flew in strange new patterns. Beneath the soil, something massive was moving. The colonists noticed first. Crops were now planted in patterns that formed firing lines. Scarecrows were replaced with motion-tracking turrets. Old grain silos became anti-air towers, painted with rust to hide their shape at night. Strange lights blinked across the ridge, quiet pulses from stealth artillery arrays. Someone asked, "Are we turning into a military base?" Eli shook his head. "No, we're building something that's never been done before." He stared at the stars. "A place where no one pushes us around. Not pirates, not empires, not even Earth. Across the galaxy, satellites caught glimpses of strange changes. One report read, Outpost 12K is no longer a colony. It's a classified stronghold. Another, detected structure, planetary defense ring, powered by geothermal venting. But no one could confirm it, because no one who flew near came back. Then came the day. Earth broke its silence. A diplomatic probe arrived. Eli met it alone. The hologram inside flickered. A Terran official appeared. "Granger? You're creating instability. I'm creating safety." "For who?" "For everyone who listens." They argued for minutes. Finally, the official said, "You're acting like a state," Eli replied. "No, I'm acting like someone who remembers what it was like to be forgotten." Weeks passed, and the truth became visible. The planet's orbit now had 4 rotating rail platforms. The entire southern hemisphere was lined with mirror satellites, capable of redirecting laser fire. The farms, still running, but the crops were shielded by tactical plasma fences. Even the livestock wore motion tags and armor pads. Outpost 12K was no longer just a home, it was a fortress world. But Eli didn't rule it alone. He created something new, a civilian-led council, open trade, zones, encrypted border protocols. He enforced laws, but never with fear. He didn't lead with speeches, he led by action, and more people came. Old soldiers, escaped slaves. Scientists tired of hiding behind cowardly governments, they didn't call it Outpost 12K anymore, they called it Granger's Reach. In secret Varnak chambers, panic spread. He's unifying systems. He has a fleet now for ships already wave his banner. We gave him time, and he turned it into power. 1. Varnak general slammed a clawed fist onto the table. He's not defending, he's expanding. And they were right. Granger's Reach now protected 5 nearby colonies, not with armies, but with infrastructure. Comes in protection protocols. He gave them food, trade, security in return. They flew his flag, a simple black field, with one white line drawn through the middle, the line that no one crossed. Final scene. Eli stood on a hilltop as the first warship built under his command lifted from dry dock. The crew volunteers from 4 species saluted him as they boarded. Rusty barked as the engines roared. The hull of the ship shimmered with a single name, the Frontier's Hand. Eli said nothing. He just nodded and quietly whispered, "Let's see who dares knock now," began. With a field dust, crops, a broken-down mech dog, a man who just wanted peace. But the galaxy didn't let Eli Granger rest, so he stopped farming wheat and started farming resistance. Now, he wasn't just defending Outpost 12K. He was planting flags on other worlds. Granger's Reach had spread to 12 systems. Each world once abandoned, forgotten, swallowed by war. Now they had trade, protection, a future. Each flew the same flag, a black field. One white line across the center, the line no empire dared cross. The Varnak tried one last time. They gathered a superfleet 18 ships. Planetary burners, siege weapons. They didn't attack Granger's Reach directly. They went for New Eldra, a colony protected under Eli's new charter. They thought he'd hesitate. He didn't. Before the Varnak even reached orbit, 3 stealth drones hacked their comms. They were blind. Then the Frontier's Hand jumped in. Eli's flagship, not the biggest ship in the fight, but the most dangerous. Its weapons were recycled from dead fleets. Its hull painted with the names of fallen colonies. Its crew, survivors, they didn't speak once. They just fired. The Varnak fleet never landed in under 9 minutes. 10 of their ships were gone. The rest fled. In their wake, they left a message. Do not provoke the line. Eli didn't celebrate. He simply visited New Eldra. 2 days later, he walked through the fields, taught a local farmer how to boost crop yield with magnet soil, spoke to kids about building things that lasted. Then he stood before the townspeople, said just one thing: "You're not alone anymore." And the crowd broke into cheers across human and alien space. Something changed. Small colonies, once ignored by Earth's high command, petitioned to join the Reach. Veterans formed Granger watchlines on backwater moons, and pirate groups. They erased Granger systems from their charts entirely. They called it the Black Patch, because ships that entered didn't leave. But not everyone feared him. Some saw hope. The Draineria race nearly wiped out, offered Eli full access to their technology. In return, they asked for nothing but protection. Eli accepted. Now, his orbitals could bend light itself. Even Earth finally came around. One high commander said, "He's done what we never could." He gave peace teeth, and the council. They quietly redrew sector borders, gave Granger his own nameplate on star maps. Granger Autonomous Zone. But they still watched, nervous, because Eli didn't answer to them. In a deep space broadcast, a child on a fringe planet once asked, "Eli, what are you now?" "King." Eli chuckled, voice calm. "No. Just a man who planted something that grew bigger than he expected."
Final scene.
Eli walks through a field. Not on Earth, not on Outpost 1-2K, but on a new world. Just added to the Reach. The sun sets red, rusty. Walks beside him older now, slower, but still loyal. A young girl runs up. "Are you the farmer who saved the stars?" Eli Kness smiles. "No, I just gave them space to grow." Behind him, across the valley, a new settlement rises. Its flag, waves in the wind, the line still holding, still growing.